What's a sign of childhood trauma?
Childish activities become almost like since this is getting big. People can just enjoy watching things from their childhood or playing games or whatever independently from trauma, but it is incredibly common for the people with trauma to basically want to relive their childhood that they lost when they are in a safer environment.
Being insecurely attached to friends and romantic partners.
Difficulties trusting, low self-esteem, fears of being.
No or few good memories.
Trouble forming relationships.
They make no eye contact. I know because even at the age of 45 I will always struggle with ism.
In some cases, excessive people-pleasing tendencies.
Unable to forgive themselves for small mistakes.
Always saying sorry, feeling guilty for speaking up.
Difficulty making relationships, fears of being judged and low self-esteem.
Perfectionism, addictions, compromised relationship to intimacy, their bodies, eating, money.
Getting disproportionately frustrated at themselves for small accidents such as spilling things, accidentally breaking something, etc. What happens is, a lot of these people would be abused as a kid for these things, so as an adult when it happens, their brain overloads their system with fear and anxiety, and frustration can be secondary emotion to that. So when these things happens, this is basically a conditioned response because your brain associates these accidents with imminent danger. This is why therapy is so important for people who had childhoods, especially during their developing years. I had no idea this was a thing until I went to therapy, but when my therapist explained this to me, it made so much sense. And now when these things happen, I tend to laugh it off.
Inability to form and keep relationships, having sparse or little to no memory of your childhood, eating disorders, depression, social anxiety, agoraphobia, extreme emotional shifts, attachment issues, consistent exhaustion, strong unexplainable reactions towards social stimuli, separation, anxiety, gastrointestinal issues and complications, substance abuse and addiction, intrusive thoughts, self-destructive behavior, etc.
I can't stand not being liked. Still working on it.
I always find myself playing video games from my childhood or watching stuff like The Simpsons when I'm feeling stressed. Constantly apologizing for every little thing. Extreme introversion, little to no outward emotion. Ability to stay calm in emergencies or chaotic situations.
Hi me, it's me again.
Choosing partners who don't support, cherish or value you. Choosing jobs and relationships that reflect the lack of empathy and neglect that you grew up with.
Extreme self-cringe, doubting if what you said was the right thing. Doubting if you acted the right way, or behaved the right way in a social setting. Asking someone several times if you did something correctly. Zoning out because you randomly remembered a traumatic childhood memory, low self-esteem, lack of confidence. Wow, I have all three.
Delayed emotional maturation. Underlying, unresolved anger issues. Low self-worth. Abandonment issues. Overly sexualized behaviors.
Hypervigilance.
Finding someone perfect for you and then systematically sabotaging it.
Avoiding conflict and suppressing your opinions.
Peacekeeping. A kid doesn't realize their parent, mum in my case, is an emotionally abusive. All I knew is I didn't want people to be so mad at each other. I think my life would have been better if I hadn't talked them out of divorce.
Being and you actually have conditioned yourself to be highly attuned to micro changes that indicate negativity you need to look out for. Also codependency or hyper-independence.
I feel amazed when someone remembers every detail of their childhood, all their school teachers' names from grade 1 through 12. My early years are mostly haze.
Having a hard time showing wow. Many people are replying to this. Sorry in advance if I don't get around to reply to you specifically. Some of you have also mentioned the other extreme of this. A lot of emotion, outbursts of emotion. Regardless, I hope everybody is doing better. Less than 3. Edit 2. Thanks for the award smiley face.
Completely shutting down when criticized or corrected. Took me years to get past. Was not expecting this level of response. I didn't even know this was a diagnosis with a name. Rejection sensitive dysphoria. In an attempt to answer questions all. Explain as succinctly as possible. TL. Doctor at the backstory. My parents are boomers. Dad grew up in a coal mining town in southern Illinois. Was a Vietnam Marine turned missionary in Uganda in the late 70s. Interesting times, is his description. Mom grew up in Savannah, Georgia and survived the civil rights and integration riots of the Deep South. Became a missionary to South America also in the late 70s. Viva la revolution. So, suffice it to say they've lived through some and are orders of magnitude harder than I'll ever be. They didn't have the tools we do today to diagnose and cope. So they internalized all of it instead, on top of a ton of old-fashioned generational blue-collar is tradition. It was passed on to how I recognized and started treating it. Bootcamp got the ball rolling. It keeps you at a functional high level of stress, to the point you just have to deal with it. There's no time to shut down or feel sorry for yourself. You showed up behind schedule and don't realize you've caught up until you get to your first unit and oversleep for the first time on your day off. I lucked up and my then girlfriend spotted it. She stopped letting me retreat to my dark place. I eventually married her. Even then it was years before we realized how broken. I found mentors in different areas of interest. Some were authors or had podcasts. The main one was a gunsmith and had a PhD of history who took me in when my parents split. He gave solid advice which I took to. The hardest part is working out and building discipline. Sometimes I have to be at muscle failure before I can think. I've been reading up on stress, trauma, PTSD, recovery, historical warrior cultures, all of it. Been attacking this like an engineer or mechanic instead of a most importantly. I got help from other people. I could not do this alone. It was just too much to process. TLDR 1. Bootcamp. No time for self-recrimination. Too much to found a friend willing and able to help. 3. Found mentors, in person and in books, podcasts. 4. Physical training. It sucks but works. 5. Researched the topic across multiple disciplines and cultures. Strangely, I never found the RSDI got help. I found people to help me.
Being afraid to ask for things. Remembering footsteps. Not liking spending time with family. Doesn't like going out because you'd be alone and watching others have fun with each other. Your own family not remembering the last time you laughed or telling you to smile. And constantly saying, I wish she'd smile more, while looking at photos. Being shy or awkward around your own friends in person.
The more I go down, the more I realize,
Over-explaining.
oh no.
What I see most in people I know, it's the excessive apologizing. They'll be talking a lot about something they're interested in and constantly apologize for talking so much. Like, nah, go off, I like hearing about what you're into.
My man, reading all of your comments, you are way too funny.
Ding ding ding, we are the winners, because I have all of them as well.
I heard this one time and it helped immensely. You can be the juiciest, sweetest, most ripe peach ever, and there are still people who don't like.
Dude, I'm in it deep.
An adult acting childlike. People think it's cringe, but age regression is a trauma response. You can especially see this if you've ever been to a psych ward. People are clinging to blankets and stuffed animals. Childhood was probably the last time they existed without being traumatized.
Feeling bad just for existing. Edit. Tism for the award, and I'm sorry to everyone that relates to this comment. I promise you have nothing to be sorry for. Heart hands light skin tone.
I am always scared that people are mad at me. Always.
Yes, I always feel like I have to explain myself because I think people wouldn't criticize or correct me if they knew what I was thinking. How did you get past it?
Yes, I do something and think I've someone off. Usually they don't even know what I'm talking about when I try to apologize.
This and sometimes having a hard time even describing how or why you feel the way you do.
Always having an escape plan. From the current room, building, or most importantly, current life situation.
All this, plus cynicism, never optimistic about anything. Depression and anxiety.
Scared of conflict to the point you avoid it at all costs, certain that if it happens the other person will hate you. It will end awfully. You've never seen people calmly sit down and discuss their emotions in a loving way, so that world doesn't exist.
Hyper-independence, withdrawing from intimacy in relationships, contempt for and avoidance of your partner when they make bids for closeness, vulnerability and connection.